From Washington, this is VOA News. More deadly car bombings rip Baghdad. Ukraine's opposition pushing for limits on presidential powers. I'm Ray Kouguell reporting from Washington. A series of car bombings blew apart areas of Baghdad Monday, killing at least 13 people. It is the latest in a month-long surge of violence in Iraq that's left 1,000 people dead and 1,500 others injured. Iranian reports.
Ambulances take casualties to hospitals after a car bomb exploded in the Horriya district north of Baghdad. The bombings coincided with military operations by the Iraqi Army in the restive, mostly Sunni Anbar province. Heavy fighting has been raging between the army and Islamic militants in and around the towns of Fallujah and Ramadi for more than a month. An army statement said 57 militants were killed Sunday and Monday in Ramadi. Edward Yeranian for VOA News, Cairo.
Al-Qaeda says it is cutting ties with a militant group fighting in Syria. The group is known as the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The authenticity of the Al-Qaeda statement cannot be verified independently. Al-Qaeda chief Ayman al-Zawahiri ordered the ISIL last year to operate independently from the Nusra Front, another Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist group in Syria. The ISIL ignored his directive and continued attempts to merge with the two branches. Anti-government protesters in Thailand marched through the streets of Bangkok Monday, vowing to continue their demonstrations following snap elections. The protesters consolidated some of their camps in the streets of the capital as their numbers decreased in the wake of Sunday's vote. The demonstrators are trying to topple the caretaker government of Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. The government says it will hold a second round of polls for about 10% of people who are not able to vote. However, the Election Commission said Monday it cannot schedule a make-up election until the protests end. Ukraine's President Viktor Yanukovych was back at work Monday after 4 days of sick leave. Opposition leaders say they would seek changes to the country's constitution that would limit presidential powers. The opposition wants to restore constitutional changes limiting the presidential powers and giving Parliament more say in forming governments. The opposition is also demanding that Mr. Yanukovych resign and new presidential elections be held. A priest in the Central African Republic says at least 75 people have been killed in a new round of interreligious violence. Father Kessin Kamatatari says the killings occurred over the past 6 days in Boda. That's 100 kilometers west of the capital, Bangui. And it happened after former Seleka rebels moved into the town. Executors of Nelson Mandela's will say he left an estate of $4.1 million, with the money going to family, staff members, schools that he attended, and South Africa's ruling party. A large amount of the money will go into a trust for children, grandchildren, and other relatives from each of Mr. Mandela's 3 marriages. The former South African president died in December at the age of 95. Corruption costs European Union countries more than $160 billion a year. Lisa Bryant has details.
Presenting the main findings at a news conference in Brussels, European Home Affairs Commissioner Cecilia Malmström says corruption's yearly price tag was probably more than 120 billion euros, or about $161 billion. She says that's hurting the bloc's recovery from its economic crisis.
The report shows clearly that the level of corruption varies from member state to member state, but it also shows that it affects all member states. There are no corruption-free zones in Europe.
While it doesn't rank the bloc's 28 members, it does find that perceptions of widespread corruption are highest in countries like Greece, Spain, Italy, and the Czech Republic. Lisa Bryant for VOA News, Paris.
The new head of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, was sworn in Monday in Washington. She is the first woman to lead the central bank in its 100-year history. Yellen replaces Ben Bernanke, who's joined the Brookings Institution, a group of scholars in Washington who study public, economic, political, and strategic issues. I'm Ray Kouguell, VOA News. Details on these and other stories on our website at voanews.com.